right, one knife here. Taking a look at the Medford Praetorian T. And I just want to first shout out my brother's Instagram for that awesome thumbnail. He is a knife nerd and a photo nerd, so he has been kind of taking pictures of some of my nicer knives, and I figured why not use those for the thumbnail and kind of, you know, spread the love a little bit. So go ahead and head over to his Instagram, Fensky Photo Forge, and take a look. So the Medford Praetorian T here, the T is a full-size Medford, so it's the same size as the tie, the original largest one. However, it is thinner. The scales are quite a bit thinner, and the blade is actually a little thinner too, if you can believe that, compared to the tie version. So this guy is about 8 ounces. It is pretty large, obviously. You know, it does carry like a Medford, meaning that it's, you know, it's a bit of a brick in your pocket. I can carry it with a front pocket wallet and this, but that's about all. And you definitely notice all day that it's there. It's pretty wide and flat, but the thinness does help it carry a little better than you would think. Some size comparisons here. Let's compare to the PM2. So PM2 coming in, definitely a little bit shorter and way less tall. The biggest thing on this knife is just how just gnarly tall the blade is. You know, it's just pretty wild. PM2 there. Compared to another Medford made blade, the Strider AR75. So this one's actually made by Medford, designed by Strider. So similar kind of profile, but definitely a bit smaller. Scale thickness is pretty similar between these two. Praetorian, again, just definitely a little bigger. I think these are about the size of the Genesis, if you're looking at those Medfords. Comparing to the Stitch, it's a pretty good size comparison here. Very tall blade on this one as well. So again, bigger than the Stitch. Stitch is a little bit rounder in the handle scales. This one's a little flatter. Overall, still the Praetorian's a larger knife. And then just something identifiable, the Malibu. So definitely dwarfing the Malibu or pretty much any normal everyday carry blade. So it's definitely a big knife. Like I said, you don't usually get a Medford or a Praetorian especially and think that it's going to be small. However, they do have a whole range of versions. I think they have the full size is the Praetorian or Praetorian T. Then they have the Genesis, which I believe is about the size of the Strider AR, which is kind of a nice Goldilocks. And then they have the Micro as well. So they have quite a few different sizes of them now. Materials on this guy. So this is hand sculpted titanium scales. And the back spacer, I believe, is the only thing with the glass breaker that's not titanium. I believe they use something else that's a little harder or a little tougher. I don't really recall. I don't care that much about glass breakers, but essentially, I guess titanium is too soft to make a glass breaker out of. Clip is titanium. Hardware is titanium, proprietary Medford hardware. The 6-gun is what they call it. And Torx here. And then the blade on this one is S90V. So this is actually from DLT Trading. It's they have a lot of Medfords in S90V. It's kind of their exclusives. Medford used to make almost everything in CPM D2, but you know, in the last 5 years or so, they've upgraded their steels a ton. So you can find them in anything from S35, S45, 3V, S90, you know, and I believe MagnaCut is what he's looking to use next. So you can really get a larger variety than a lot of people realize as far as steel choices go. I like the S90V because it's the same price as, you know, S35 or whatever one you get from somewhere else. However, it is, you know, super high edge retention. It is a brittle and hard to sharpen steel, but because the blade is so thick, that makes a lot of sense, you know, for me to have a brittle steel because the thickness of the blade is going to make it tougher just, you know, via the geometry. So I'm not really worried about it chipping being that robust, and I don't have to sharpen it very often, which I would prefer because I probably will just send it into Medford to sharpen if I need it anyways. So I don't want to be sending it in every 3 months. So yeah, so the S90V on this guy, you can tell from the 9 right there. And all the hardware is titanium on this guy as well. So as far as carry goes, you know, this is it's a huge knife. Like I said, you don't really, you shouldn't be surprised if you get a Medford and it's large, although they do have a lot of slimmer choices now, more EDC friendly choices. It's going to take up, like I said, most of your pocket. It's definitely heavy. The weight you'll notice for sure. It's wide. It's almost like carrying another cell phone, really, is kind of what, you know, I think about with this. So I do carry it, I do use it, I cut with it, but it's, it's not something that I can carry in like dress pants or anything like that. It's definitely a jean kind of carry. Ergos on it. This actually is a lot more comfortable than you would think it is. The jimping on these are aggressive. So the jimping up here is pretty aggressive. The jimping on the spine is pretty aggressive. It is sharp, but that's kind of its purpose, right? But all the edges are really, really well chamfered. I believe he has several different kind of levels of chamfering that he uses for the scales versus like the blade jimping. The fuller is a bit sharp as well so that you can catch it with your thumb. That's purposeful. I sometimes wish it was a little bit knocked down in the fuller, but I can understand, like with Spydercos, sometimes you have trouble flicking them if they're not kind of grabby enough. So ergos, like I said, are pretty good. It's a big knife. It fills the hand pretty well. It's really pretty comfortable in any cutting position. It does have a little choil that you can actually choke up on. I don't have the largest hands in the world. I think I'm a large glove size, but not enormous, thin fingers. I can choke up on it like that. The one thing that bothers me with the ergos of this knife is the lock bar. Because the scales are thinner, this lock bar does stick out from the scales, and it's pretty thin. It's actually narrowed down a little bit. And when I grab, I can feel that lock bar against me, which, I don't really like. When I'm cutting, however, you're pushing the blade kind of up into your hand. So it's not, you're not going to feel that lock bar unless you were, cutting reverse or something like that. So it's really not something that you notice when you cut, but when you, when you disengage it and when you hold it, you definitely feel a little bit of that. So I'm not sure if that'd be better if it was on the thicker scale version, or if it just would be better if they would just have this lock bar kind of more flush. But that's the one thing that bothers me about it. Otherwise, the ergos are very good. Action on this guy, it does have that typical Medford, hydraulic Chris Reeve type action. It's very, very smooth. It's definitely the smoothest knife that I own. It's very glassy. It's got a pretty good detent, as you can see right here, and then it's extremely smooth and glassy on open. And Medfords have a really nice kind of sound when they open as well. They have a nice click. It's very positive. All Medfords kind of have that. They lock up just super hard. They do have stop pins here. Absolutely no blade play on any Medford I've ever owned, and I have quite a few. So yeah, so it's definitely, you can kind of try to Spidey flick it, but you got to give it a little bit of wrist. It's not the easiest thing. They're not really meant to be Spidey flicked. I've seen people do it. If you give it a little wrist, you can, but not my favorite way to open it. What I usually do is kind of put my thumb in the very bottom of the fuller and just slowly roll it up like that. It does, just like every other Medford, require a break-in period. Especially the PVD coated blades, I've noticed, require a lot longer break-in period. I'll make a video about how to break in a Medford in a couple hours later on. You can break them in quick if you want, or this one, it basically took me about probably 3 months of carrying it a couple days a week, and playing with it a little bit to break it in. So they do just kind of break in on their own. Really what's happening is they have these exposed kind of detents right here, which is strange. When I first got that, I thought something was wrong with the knife, and then I kind of realized it's just Medford style, that detent track. So what really needs to happen is basically that ceramic detent ball has got to wear a path there. And so it's going to wear a path and get smooth. And then eventually you can kind of clean this out since it's exposed. And it just is absolutely glassy, but that does take a little time. And again, it takes longer the harder the blade steel or the harder the coating. So the satin blades will break in a little quicker, that kind of stuff. But they all do break in, lock up super solid. They feel amazing, just super, super smooth. Not a fidget knife, but just when you open it, it's very satisfying. So cutting on it. So the cutting performance is actually what surprised me and most people that I've kind of lent this to. It actually cuts amazingly well. It's a thick blade stock. However, it has a really, really aggressive hollow grind. So it does definitely taper to a very, very thin edge. Much, much thinner than I thought was possible for a blade stock thickness like this. So it actually cuts really, really good. I don't really have any issues with anything that I've cut. I've put it through thick cardboard. I've put it through just normal daily tasks, food wrappers, that kind of stuff. They cut way better than you would think they would. They really do. That hollow grind is actually amazing. And because the blade is so tall, it just has a lot of room to kind of drop to that thinner edge. So I think that helps quite a bit. I think if you had the tie ones, or like a micro, the cutting probably would be worse because the blade's thicker and it's not as tall. But yeah, cutting actually is amazing on these. They're super sharp, came from the factory super sharp. I've sent it in once before, and I believe they just kind of stropped the edge and it just came back absolutely nuts, scary sharp. So dislikes on this guy, like I said, that lock bar does bother me a little bit. The clip is a pretty high retention clip, so it is going to kind of tick in and out of your pocket. You're going to hear it when you pull it in onto your pocket. It is a heavy knife, so I understand having a higher retention on it. It doesn't bother me, but sometimes you do need to kind of two-hand it in and out of your pocket. So be aware of that. They do make this smooth kind of part when they sculpt underneath the clip so that it does, it doesn't tear your pockets up by any means. And the milled clip is really nice, but definitely high retention, right? Some other dislikes, it does have the proprietary hardware. I love the look of it, but it's really annoying to try to find a spanner bit that size to mess with it. You can take apart your Medfords, and as long as you don't do any damage to them or modify them with like bearings or something crazy, Medford really doesn't care anymore. Or if you've modified it, you can kind of work with them a little bit on it. Like they might still sharpen it or that kind of stuff, but they're not gonna, if you've screwed up the knife by taking it apart, they're not gonna, be in charge of fixing it for you, basically. So that's good and bad. I love the look of it. I don't really plan to take it apart ever, but it would be nice to have that option. So it does have an over travel stop here, lock bar stabilizer. And like I said, it's a large knife. I like the stop pins. I like how hard it locks up. I love the look of it. This is kind of my grail knife, essentially. So this is, it's kind of like a purple with a bronze Peaks and Valley, I believe is what they call it. And they just did a phenomenal job on it. It looks fantastic. You can really customize these however you want. You can get some more stock configurations at just, general sites. I got this one again off DLT. It was kind of what I was looking for and I loved it. Or you can literally just go to Medford and order exactly what you want with anything. They have tons of different options for customizing. They've got tons of different sculpts, tons of different types of anos. And if you don't see on their website builder an option for something that you want, you can literally just reach out to them, and their customer service is fantastic. They will, usually Amy Medford or one of their people will reach back out to you, within a day and just kind of talk with you about your order. And it does take a while to custom order. I think 6 months plus is typical, but you can get literally exactly what you want. Which is, what I like the most about Medford. They're very expensive, but basically you can get a very high-end, custom, hand-ground, hand-sculpted knife with the ano that you want, all that kind of stuff at any point. You don't have to wait for a drop. You don't have to, try to win a lottery or whatever. You can literally just order it at any time, or you can just, kind of check out those retailers or their YouTube and see kind of what's dropping, what's coming soon. So, other likes, I love this coating. This is their kind of proprietary PVD coating. It's actually called Armalube. I'm not exactly sure the specifics on how that's different than PVD or DLC, but what I found from using it is basically, it's kind of a matte, and it nothing really sticks to it. So it's got kind of a matte texture to it, a matte look to it. It's incredibly durable. I don't baby this knife. I don't use it in construction or anything like that, but it's held up amazingly well. And like I said, I just like that it's a nice matte kind of even look. Nothing sticks to it, nothing bothers it. Some of the knives like the DLC that like ProTech uses is very shiny, fingerprints up a lot, and this one doesn't. So I do like their coating quite a bit. The exposed detent track, again, it's strange. There is a reason for that. Like I said, basically when you do the break-in process, it's so that you can easily get to it and clean it and oil it once it's broken in and the PVD is kind of worn through for the track, or if the track gets dirty. Again, there's pluses and minuses to that, but that's kind of just a Medford thing. The glass breaker, again, I don't really care that much about the glass breaker. It's not really sharp. It doesn't bother me in my pocket or anything like that. I don't really notice it. So that, again, doesn't bother me at all. I like the tumble on the clip. It basically allows you to, you can hit it against a counter or anything like that and not worry that you messed it up. It looks the same at the end of the day. So, and then as far as Medfords go in general, like I said, I have quite a few Medfords, and their warranty is fantastic. They'll work with you on anything. They've always gotten everything back to me super quick. They do care about their customers. They have legacy programs where if you have an old Praetorian and you want it sculpted or anode or something like that, you can send it back to them and they'll do that kind of stuff for you. They get a bad rap, but they do make fantastic custom knives, well-made knives. They're expensive, but in my opinion, they're more than worth it for what you get. You really get a grail. You really get a company that's going to take care of their customer for the long run, and you can trust the knife forever. So I'm a big fan. Like I said, it's a huge knife. I don't carry it every day, but it is kind of my grail knife. On the weekends or something, I'll throw it in my pocket and carry it. And every time I bring it out, it's definitely a conversation starter. So check them out if you haven't before. Like I said, you can go to their site. You can look at DLT or other retailers and kind of see what they have available. And like I said, they have varying sizes. So if you like this shape, but you want a different size or a different build or something like that, those are definitely available. So yeah, so check them out. And thanks for watching.